Welcome back to Going Walkabout. Today's episode I'm going to show you how I send emails from SwiftUI. If you've been following along for a while, you know that I have a UIKit application, Going Walkabout, an iOS travel diary, but I'm moving it slowly to SwiftUI. And one of the things I was moving to SwiftUI was my list with followers and the ability to invite new followers. But I ran into an issue because that part of the application is sending an email or sending a message that is not directly available in SwiftUI, so I had to change the way I was doing it before. And that's what I'm going to explain today. So let's first look at how I did it before, or when it was all UIKit, and how I did send the emails or the messages, etc. So I had my trip follower as well. I had my trip follower view controller. It's just a view controller that showed a list with followers, and it had a button plus that will then bring up a sheet with the options. Do you want to add by mail, by message, or WhatsApp, whatever? And that is happening here. Well, this is how I create my invite. It's not that important, but here I say add followers. And then it will go, I press that button, add followers. It will look into if I can send email. It will create an alert action because it was a sheet that comes up from the bottom with the options that were available on that particular device. Makes it also very hard to test on an emulator, so you always have to do it on the device itself just to make it a little bit easier to test. And if that is the way, I will then create here my mail compose view controller, set some properties. I will present it if it is actually the action is clicked, and I add the action. So I created here for the mail, I did the same. WhatsApp, I did it a little bit different. And this way it worked perfectly because I would press the plus button, the sheet would come up, click on the sheet, and I had my action defined here, and I can directly talk to my MF Message Compose View Controller if I can do that. But now I went into SwiftUI, and in SwiftUI, as I typically do with my views, I have a view and a view model. So if I go to my view, and my view is using a view model that I created specifically for this view. So if it's really a view with business logic, I typically also create a view model to contain that business logic. And it has a list. Well, the list is not relevant. It has a section with owners and with followers. I'll show you in a minute in a demo how that is actually presented on the screen. But that is still a work in progress. This is about sending the email. Now, on Appear, I refresh my view model. I set some titles, set some bar items, press the button, get my actions. So this is what we need to look into in my view model. What happens if I get my actions? Showing the options is true, meaning it's showing a sheet, because here is my action sheet showing options. If that is true, it will show my sheet, and it will go through the different invite actions that are available, and for each it will then call the invite action is to be done. And now here I have two sheets because I cannot go and present a view controller, a UIKit view controller. I cannot do that in SwiftUI. I need to have a sheet what will then encapsulate my sending of the mail or the message. And I have a sheet here for my show mail and the show message that is triggered based on what is available in my view model by clicking on this invite action. So let's go into the view model. Now, the view model from top. It has some data, it is initialized, it is a refresh, it goes to the list of users, it's not all that relevant for this. The get actions, that's what you saw here, that I ask what are my actions. If I press that button, where is it? Here, get actions. So I press the plus button on the screen, they'll show in a minute, get the actions will then go. Yeah, can I send mail? Can I not send mail because that's a class method on the view controller? And I can add the options that I have available, and the options I just create here in the actions and with a little bit of a title, etc. Now, and then I get my invite that is doing basically the same as I had before. It's not important, but this invite, and that was called for my view. If I then press one of the buttons in my bottom sheet, it will do the invite. And if the invite case, the invite, show the mail, show the message, and this get invite will also return the subject of the button. Okay, so the press invite will call my get invite. My get invite here is creating the actual deep link for the invitation. It's using this Firebase, whatever, deep link thing. I don't know the name anymore, dynamic links from Firebase to do that. Creates it here, and it returns on success the subject and the body to be done, because the subject and the body are determined by the link and is created somewhere here. Is the description. So once you get in the invite, I call that get invite, create the dynamic link, and that returns me the subject and the body, and I can set here the subject and the body on self, because the show mail here in my view controller will show mail and will get the view model, the subject, and the view model of the body, and send that. Now this all seems to work, but there's one caveat here, because this mail compose doesn't exist in SwiftUI, because it is actually what you saw here, much more the message view controller. What is a UI view controller? So in order to make that available in SwiftUI, that's what I did here, I need to create a UI view controller representable. And this is the typical way how you can make a UIKit view available in SwiftUI. Works perfectly. I've used that in many places in the application, so you can create a seamless integration between the SwiftUI and the UIKit application. Now, that's what I created here, but I did take out the way I compose it, so I have access here, what for me is important to do, that I can, here, that I can still create my composer. So I took the composer where you set the body, the email, etc. out, so it's more generic than creating a single purpose only send mail version. Yeah, and that's what I did here with my coordinator that will use the binding result, is what you can see here. It will, well, in the view, of course, it will pass in the result, and that is the result email as a bounded variable that I have here is my result, is my composed result. And that is returned from the function, and then I can get my composer in where I can actually fill that in from my compose window. And now I have a much more generic way to send the email. And of course, I repeated the whole thing for my message compose, what is 98% the same. There's a few little differences in sending an email and a message, but that's much more a naming difference that I had to adjust to make sure it works in both scenarios. And the result is that I can now here in my view just present this sheet, and I can set the subject and the message body. And as you see, that's a little bit of a difference. In the mail, you set the subject and you set the message body, and in the message, you set directly the subject and the body as a property. So these are the little bit of a difference, but it works in both ways to do that. Now, in order to demo that, I'll use my trusty old phone here. You see again my list with trips. I take the first trip, I go to the follower, I have only one follower. Yeah, we also see that the list here is not that beautiful yet. I'm still working on that because it doesn't have the correct, images everywhere. But that's a work in progress. This is the thing I mean. I can press this plus button here, and now my sheet comes up. That was the sheet that I defined here in the it's this sheet that is presented with these buttons that contain the invite actions, the view model and invite actions. But the invite actions are, if I press it, I get into my actions. The get actions is here. We'll look what are available on my device. Based on that, it will show that. And if I now do the mail, it nicely pops up that sheet because I get into my view here, the view. I have my actions, it creates the sheet. When I press it, I get an action on the sheet button. It calls the invite with the appropriate action, gets to my view model, goes into this invite function. That invite function will create the invite, returns me the subject and the body, and if the action was mail, as I just showed you, I said show mail is true, and then in my view, the show mail is true is this one, so it will show a sheet with the mail, and I can complete the one to send it to, etc. And this way I have bridged from SwiftUI to UIKit to use the normal compose of an email that you're familiar with and that you also saw in my old view controller. Was a little bit of figuring out, but this is what you get if you're moving stuff from UIKit. You're used to do things in a certain way, and suddenly you need to think a little bit different. Look at some examples. There's plenty of examples out there now, because it's not all that new anymore. And this is also how I figured it out, with a little bit of help of our trusty old Google. And I implemented into my application, and I'm very happy with it. And now I can continue to fix up the layout of that followers view, and of course when that is done, publish it and make sure that I don't use the old UIKit anymore and move forward in more and more SwiftUI in my application. I just wanted to share that with you, how I sent my email in SwiftUI. I hope you liked it. If you like it, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, subscribe anyway, because you never know if the next one is better for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.